Welcome to the Rock Fight, where we speak our truth, slay sacred cows, and sometimes agree to disagree. This is an outdoor podcast that aims for the head. I'm Colin True, and today we are wrapping up Showpocalypse 2025 with our instant reactions to Switchback Spring. But before we get to that, next Tuesday, be sure to come back to the Rock Fight Podcast Network for a new episode of Open Container, which is hosted by the man with a 100% outdoor industry approval rating, Doug Schnitzbahn. Follow Open Container on your favorite podcast app. And hey, are you new to the Rock Fight? Then we ask that you also follow this show on your favorite podcast app. Lastly, come back on Monday where producer Dave, Eoin Comerford, and I will be bringing you the best outdoor industry commentary that is going around here on the podcast. And with trade show season in the rear view mirror, we're excited to talk about something new. So stick around. We'll be right back. In the store aisles, a quiet revolution is happening. With Endeavor, frontline staff aren't just selling products, they're building trust, making connections, and turning browsers into loyal customers. Let's see how. He didn't know which brand he wanted, just that the trail ahead was rocky. But she knew, because she'd trained for this moment right on her phone. A quick conversation, a confident recommendation, and a perfect fit hiking boot later, he's ready for his trip. That's right, she's a It may be lunchtime, but between sandwich bites, he learned about fog fighting tech and snow goggles. An hour later, that knowledge helped a customer pick the perfect pair and add a helmet too. Learning on the go, selling with certainty, adding value. Yup, he's a Endeavor is a mobile-first platform that equips retail staff with training, incentives, and tools to boost sales and brand engagement. Brands gain insights, sell-through improves, while retail associates stay motivated. Ready to get started? Just head to endeavor.io, update your brand profile, and upload your dealer list to access the free features and, when you're ready, launch your first pay-as-you-go campaign. With flexible, scalable options, Endeavor turns everyday interactions into strategic wins. The result? Be a shop floor hero. Endeavor's here to stay. Shop floor hero. Sell-through is the way. Liz and Royal Robbins were known as American climbing royalty. Part of the first group of Yosemite-based climbers that would scale routes yet unclimbed, who would promote the ethic of clean climbing, and who, with a core group of startup brands, would serve as the foundation of our modern outdoor industry. From their very first pair of shorts that could boast a true climbing functionality, Royal Robbins has become synonymous with comfort, versatile wear for the modern adventurer. From Rockcraft Productions coming spring 2026 to a specialty store near you, Royal Robbins presents Being Royal Robbins. It's the story of how the Royal Robbins men's desert pucker became an icon and spawned the new Camino pucker. And it's the story of how an innovative brand launched mosquito protection technology to keep you protected without the use of chemicals, and why the Salif hoodie is possibly the most unique hoodie in our outside world. And how you can experience this uniquely American story of adventure through the thoughtful clothing choices of Royal Robbins. Available for streaming everywhere you find actual water-based tributaries. Being Royal Robbins, because nature and adventure are good for the soul. Oh, this is DJ CT, and welcome back to Rock Fight Radio, where today we're excited to share with you guessed it, the latest from Fitz. Here's a little taste of Fitz Like You, exclusively independent.
You don't know, past the highway signs and the mountain snow. There's a little shop with a wooden door, been keeping locals geared since '84. They sell grit, they sell gear that lasts, and a socket don't quit when you're moving fast. Fits on the shelf, fits for the bold, not some big box store. You've been sold. We're exclusively independent, yeah, we ride for the few. Not the cheapest, just the realest. Knit tight for what you do. For the towns that keep the trails that drive, and the rebels keeping dreams alive. Fit stand tall in the shops that care. If you want it real, you'll find us there. Fit.
Check out all of the hits from Fitz on their Spotify playlist, and now, back to the show. Okay, I'm recording this on Thursday, June 19th. I'm just back home from the Switchback show where I spent the week with producer Dave, Shawnté Salabert, and Eoin Comerford. Before we left, we recorded our instant reactions to the event where we talked about what worked, what didn't work, the predictions we made on Monday's episode, and what we'd like to see in the future, etc. Before you get to hear that, a few quick things. Number one, during the conversation, you'll hear me say that the recording of the live show that we did while at Switchback is going to play later in the episode. Well, we ended up releasing that as a standalone episode yesterday. So if you're interested in hearing a live taping of the rock fight at Switchback, check that out, but it won't be on this episode. Number two, after we recorded this episode, we returned to the show floor for the final day of exhibition, and throughout the day, we actually met with multiple brands who wrote orders at the show. The last count I had was 5 brands who not only had leads, but got paper during the show from retailers. So proof that order writing can happen at the national show, and we reference these kinds of things without that information during the episode that you're about to hear. So I wanted to make sure I clarified that. And number 3, lastly, also after we recorded this episode, literally just hours after we recorded it, Switchback put out a press release announcing that next year's event would be taking place on the same dates as this year, June 16th to the 18th. Only next year, the event would be moving to New Orleans. So in what you're about to hear, we do talk a bit about dates and location, and we didn't have that information at the time. Between our time at GOA and Switchback, I have yet to encounter a brand representative that didn't say that they wanted to see the show move to August. They've all said that they do want to see that. So I'm guessing that even though the Switchback stoke is high, and as we all left Nashville this week, there are probably going to be some emails and phone calls to the OIA and to Switchback HQ now that this is public. From our end, hopefully this is the last bit of trade show talk you'll hear on the show for a while. It's been a lot of it lately. For those of you who we got to meet or catch up with in Nashville this week, thank you so much. It was amazing to hear from so many who enjoy the show, and we promise that we're just getting started over here. All right, let's get into it. Welcome back to the Rock Fight, where today it's our instant reaction to Switchback Spring 2025. Okay, guys, we're recording in a hotel ballroom at the Gaylord Resort in Nashville, Tennessee on the last day of Switchback. I'm here with producer Dave, Shawnté Salabert, and outdoor industry insider Eoin Comerford, contractually obligated to say that every time we say his name. We've been in Tennessee all week. Yesterday, we walked the show floor, we spoke to a ton of attendees, and we did our live show. But this conversation is our true instant reaction to Switchback. What worked, what didn't work, etc. How's everybody feeling this morning? Do we have trade show kind of tired vibes going on? Where we I feel pretty actually good for a third day of a show, personally.
Yeah, I feel great.
Yeah, definitely feeling revived for sure. First day's always rough, but feeling good today.
Yeah, I think, Eoin, what did you say? You talked to 70 people yesterday? Was that your estimate?
I think so, yes.
I feel like I talked to a fraction of the people Eoin talked to, but I think what really helped is that Colin pushed our recording back by an hour. Thank you, Colin.
Right. I feel that might be low, actually, Eoin. I just the buzz around you.
You really did. It was kind of tough to get. You just go zooming by, as we're walking around. There goes Eoin. He's probably like 3 people behind him.
I am a fast walker. I don't know. Actually, that was one of the things that would piss me off about the OR of the past was that when people would stop in the thing and just have a conversation and take up the whole fucking walkway, and it's just like, people, I have an appointment to get to in 2 minutes. The other side of this convention center.
The Royal Robbins coffee line is just getting longer and longer. If I do not get there soon, I'll miss out.
All right. Well, also, we are operating on 2 mics here, guys. So this is it's going to be tough with the 4 of us, but it's all right. We're going to make it work. But no, I agree. That was always a big thing. And when that hall was filled and you're at one corner, you got to get to the other corner. It was tough. Not the problem here at Switchback.
No, I mean, I think that the hallways, it was busy and there was a good buzz and what have you. But no, I mean, it wasn't packed where you couldn't get past people. Although I would say, I would question back in the OR days, what percentage of the people in the hallways were actually retail buyers?
I mean, that is the question everybody asks. Where are the retailers? That's my prediction. You didn't ask me. You guys are going to go over your predictions later. I'm just inserting my prediction was that people were going to complain about where are the retail buyers?
So this is
which
a
they did. That's
post
what they
prediction. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I like to look at something 110% and then tell you what happened.
That's right. And your accuracy rate is stunning.
So what I do is I fly in, I do the event, then I make my predictions. And I'm always right every time. So we are going to get into the retail thing because I have some thoughts on exactly what you're saying, Shawnté. But look, what we're going to do today is it's a little loose, but we're going to talk about what worked at Switchback, what we think didn't work. We're going to revisit mine, Owen's, and Dave's predictions from Monday's episode, and then what we think needs to happen next time. So let's just kick in with what worked. I think number one, I do want to call out Christina Henderson and the running event crew who then put on Switchback. I think they fucking slayed it. I think they know how to put on an event. It feels like every small thing, like little things that I didn't even really know that I was kind of missing. Like, oh, I'm glad they have that. And we're sitting in a podcast room that is for people who are doing podcasts, recording, and we'll get into some of the other things. But I think just kudos to them. They did put the event itself, broadly speaking, great job.
Yeah, agreed. And I think the other key thing that worked out, obviously, was just the critical mass of brands, right? Which we haven't seen in, I don't know, pre-COVID. I mean, probably like 2018, maybe. Some of these brands actually hadn't been, like Arc'teryx hadn't been to an OR in years. So that was, I think, really the strongest part of the whole thing. And clearly, whether it was OIA or the early involvement of REI or what have you, they delivered on the brand piece.
Yeah. And I think thinking about the whole aspect, I haven't been to a trade show in a few years. And so for me coming back into it, I was like, all right, is this going to feel like OR Junior? And in some ways, in a good way, I think it did. Because I think it brought together, you're here for business, you're here to get things done. But also there was a huge, it felt human. It felt like the whole thing was on human scale. I mean, part of that is the size of it. I think also having that blend of the bigger brands that we haven't maybe seen in a while, and then all these emerging brands was really special. And I think people are having actual conversations. People are excited to see each other. But then people, you can bump into people the whole time because you're not traversing this giant, remember the Salt Palace. But I thought that was really special. It felt really human. It felt like there were all these moments where you could actually run into somebody and have a real conversation, not just like, how are you doing? What are you doing?
Yeah, and I think that leads to kind of the next point I had was I think the small booth format worked. That was exactly what you said. And it actually speaks to kind of what you mentioned, Owen, about old OR, like having the limited booth size and a reduced size hall. I mean, the best example of it wasn't even anything we had to do with the brand. Is like we wanted to get out of there and have lunch, and we'll talk about lunch and meals in a second. But we grabbed our sandwiches and like booked it out of there, so no one would stop us because we were so hungry. Shawnté and it was like we were out of the hall in just a minute. Versus if that had been again old OR, we're like, all right, 15 minutes, we're gonna get to the other side of the hall. So I think that would actually work though. But the upside of that was there was still so much to see, and there's booths I'm sure that we even missed. And which we'll see today, but it felt like just felt kind of homey and tight.
Yeah, I actually have a bit of a counterpoint to that. I think the booth size, I love the concept of it. Again, sort of the salary cap saving brands from themselves in terms of overspending.
I love the idea of a salary cap for a trade show.
But the issue to me, though, is it really doesn't allow enough room for meeting space. And that was really the big driver of old OR.
That's a really good point.
At least for me was... In the back, in meeting with doing this sort of the top to tops with the key execs from the brands talking about business, there was really not a ton of space for that, and so actually, Dave and I were talking about could it be sort of a reverse grassroots format. So those that don't know, grassroots is only a by appointment only show, which is it's basically everything is behind the curtains, right? There were no curtains because there was no room, so everything was in front of the curtains. I think some sort of piece where there's maybe if it isn't a 20 by 20 is the max, maybe it's a 20 by 30 where you'd have room in the back for a couple of meeting rooms.
Yeah, and to that point, like with GOA, it's a percentage that can be front facing, yes. Right? And so just limiting that, you're still getting to present, you're still getting to show people what you're doing, and create energy, because that I think the front facing is what creates part of that energy within the hallways. So yeah, I think a blended model is probably a future.
I think some of that is I wonder how people weren't in the routine of doing their booths, because I think even my
days at Pro Bar, we only had like 10 by 10s at OR, and we had like one table in the corner that was for meetings, and we set a schedule for the table, which was kind of like our back room, right?
Was that because you could have like 6 months worth of Pro Bars in that 10
Dude,
by
we
10?
had so many bars. Please take this home, and people did. It was great. Never left the show with inventory. It was wonderful. But I mean, it was like I want to have reps be able to bring retailers in, or I want to meet with, like, if your CEO of Moose Jaw is coming in, like, oh, I want to meet with that person, right? And so we, in our limited capacity, we're still able to find a way to make it work. That was still challenging. But I do wonder if there was hey, we're going back to trade shows. Let's just put the brand on display, and fingers crossed people pop by. So I think there may be some ways to get around that. But I also think, and it sounds like the next year's show, we'll get into it, there's going to be more space, more brands. I think we'll probably see an improvement on that in the future, I would imagine. But keeping on going with, and I'm sure we'll talk more about that, meals being provided, that sounds like such a small thing, but I think I have eaten more at a trade show here than I did in 20 years of going to outdoor retailer. Just such a little thing.
You're just eating like nibbles of Cliff Bars, like, oh, I haven't tried this flavor yet. Can I just sample this one more time for the 10th time?
But actually, that probably hurts traffic to the food people, the backpacking food vendors here.
I wasn't as hungry this year, that's
exactly.
true.
Yeah, so there was,
Back to Dave's point, why we didn't have inventory at Pro Bar. You're like, oh my God, I'm starving. Can I have a Pro Bar?
You were a meal substitute, no doubt.
I took some of those on the PCT, actually. I remember going to OR specifically and getting Pro Bars and Cliff Bars. Thank you.
But included under that category would be the happy hour on day one, which I thought was just great,
Highlight.
right? I mean,
highlight.
Yeah, so because that didn't happen at OR. I mean, different brands would obviously host different things, but this wasn't just an on the floor happy hour or beers to be had. It was actually a whole venue by the fake river. There was apparently a whiskey bar that I didn't hear about.
Oh yes, there was. Dave and I partook heavily. Whiskey and bourbon.
But I thought it was just great, and a great vibe and a great way to kick off the show.
It was great. Like that night too, you could sense everyone's anticipation for yesterday and for today, of course, but yesterday really. It was, to me, there was a buzz in the air that I don't recall feeling at OR ever. And it was the sense of what's going to happen. And, I actually feel good about what's going to happen. Like everybody seemed super optimistic. And then walking the floor yesterday, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like people still had that high level of enthusiasm. Like there was a vibe. There was actual vibe. I felt it yesterday. And even when we were getting towards the end of the day and people are kind of over talking to everybody, it still felt good. The energy was right.
Well, this is all going to last until everyone goes back to their offices and the finance people start looking over the expenses.
What did you spend?
That's right.
You went to that steakhouse at the Gaylord? And this doesn't really fall into one of it starts leading us towards what didn't work, and I have a few more what did works, but I think it's a good place to talk about it is because everyone seemed to immediately fall back into our old patterns of being at a trade show. And, I think I heard multiple times from brands and then from retailers the same things we heard for years that led to partly maybe in a larger way why OR went through what it went through. And it was only a few brands came by my booth today, or only a few retailers came by the booth today, and then whatever, just all the same kind of things. And it immediately dawned on me, like, oh my God, these are the exact same conversations. It's like there was no time lost at all. We're just immediately back in this environment, and these are the things that I say. And I think we almost probably need to be a champion in this, and we kind of have been to a certain degree on the pod of to say, like, hey, you don't go to a national show to write orders. Orders might come afterwards, but this is a vibe. This is the industry getting together. Everyone is saying, we need a national show to get together. Then we get everybody together, and everyone's like, I don't know, not a lot of retailers around here. I don't know about this thing.
Well, I think it's a lot easier to justify what it costs for a 20 by 20 single story booth. I don't know. I think even for the biggest brand here, they spent maybe $100,000 on the show.
Yeah, right. All in with food and travel.
With everything, travel and everything, right? Back in the day, there were $1 million plus budgets.
Well over.
Right, exactly.
Just for the booth.
Just for the booth, let alone, all the travel and then taking everyone out to dinner, et cetera. So I think it's easier to justify under that sort of feel.
Yeah, and I think that it's just, again, I think that's almost like the thing you say at these shows, and then you reflect on it. And next year, if you see the list that everybody's showing up again, you go, okay, I guess I'm going back again too. But to keep it going with things that worked, I do think the Trailhead Theater, where the Rock Fight Live took place last night, was great. It seemed like walking by it, there was all the panels at least had some people turning up, and it felt very intimate. And they set it up in a way where it wasn't just like an empty spot, which I've seen at some trade shows.
I mean, obviously, it needed to be bigger for our event
For our excessive overflow.
They were 5 deep. I mean, it was, but
Not an exaggeration.
no, I mean, it was great. One more thing that I would say that worked is that, most brands, I would say, invested and really did show up. They were thoughtful about the booth size, how to maximize it, et cetera. There were some notable exceptions that we call out in the live show. But, I wasn't at the TRE event. But Dave, I think you were saying that you thought that the Switchback section of that was really meh. So now, looking at it today, how would you compare the two?
Without a doubt. And I think the one thing that Switchback at TRE, it's right next door. It's in the shadow of this mature show with this very core following, and so the booths are bigger. There is an energy. TRE knows how to give out swag too. Let's be clear. They create energy. So they're suffering a little bit from just being right next to that. And it's not, running is not outdoor. So the outdoor brands are a little more just kind of hesitant maybe to spend and display that way. With the exception of Merrill, their booth crosses over both sides.
Merrill by Merrill.
Merrill by Merrill. But now you removed that kind of running side from this, and when I mean, again, that mature show, and it's almost like we've started from the ground up, right? And where you have this mix of the bigger players showing up for some presence, and the proliferation of the 10x10s is stocked with product and founders and things like that. So it really does, I think, create its own new energy that we're starting over with.
Yeah, I felt like, too, this was a show where I could actually go get deep in any booth that I wanted to. I don't feel like I needed to have an appointment, and I could walk up and someone would tell me. I went to the Arn booth. Some of you guys were with me. You saw what happened. Arn makes these backpacks that have these front pouches. It's kind of a kangaroo vibe. Colin's giving me a look right now. What he wants me to say, it's like a mammary pocket situation. So I've heard of this pack. I was like, I don't know. But you come to a show like this, and they've got time to actually show you the pack. And I put it on. They cinched their very well-fitting, honestly, the best-fitting hip belt I've ever felt in my life. Fully loaded with about 35 pounds of weight. And it felt like nothing as soon as they cinched it on me. And I was like, I am willing to go out there and look like a fool in this pack because it fits so well. But at a bigger show, I might not have been able to get in to see something like that if they've got appointments all day. That to me was one of the special sauce things about this show, especially this year. Like, again, like we said, next year it's going to be bigger. Maybe that won't be the vibe, but I loved that sense that you could still have that discovery that I feel like I had when I first started going to trade shows. And
for those that are interested, we will post a picture of Shawnté's face.
Oh, yeah.
The moment she had this discovery, because
Dave was
it is
on point with the camera,
pure
buddy.
Joy.
Yeah.
That's right, of discovery.
It was amazing. Last couple things I think for what worked. Obviously, we mentioned our live show. Just want to thank everybody who came up to talk to us. I mean, it was overwhelming, actually. I think the four of us could not get down an aisle without somebody talking about how much they love the pod or appreciate the pod, and so thank you for all of that. Thank you for the love and support for the show. And like Eoin said, we had a lot of people there, 5 to 6 deep. And if we found anyone new, please follow the pod. If you're listening right now, please click the follow button. We would love to have you on a little more regular basis.
If I could add one more thing that I thought worked was the fact that we did have founders showing up and small emerging brands showing up, which I thought was great. And we had Founded Outdoors, which really helped to bring some of that together. I was on a panel about emerging brands that was phenomenal, I thought, personally. No, not for me. No, actually not for me.
Did you hear me on the panel?
No, actually it was the other panelists. Katie did a great job. We had Lloyd, we had Mike. But also then they had a happy hour later on where a lot of those founders got to get together and really commiserate about being a founder in the outdoor industry. But yeah, it was really great to see that those folks all here together.
Today's episode of The Rock Fight was presented by Oboes, who wants to share their love of hiking, and we want to help them by uncovering all the different reasons that we love to take the long walk, including the following reasons. Number 1, hey, your feet may hate you. but your soul feels smug. Number 2, trail dust makes you look rugged, not dirty. Number 3, every thunderstorm is a personality test. Number 4, hiking means the Bridger boot collection, and the Bridger Ridge is here to help you smooth out the rough trails in front of you with enhanced stability and protection. The Bridger Ridge is Oboe's first boot with Gore-Tex, so bring on the smiles and the miles in the Bridger Ridge. And if you find yourself at any number of Colorado locations, be sure to stop into Jack's Outdoors to pick up your very own pair of Bridger Ridges. Number 5, this hiking appreciation moment is brought to you by Oboes of Bozeman, Montana. Oboes is the maker of premium quality footwear for the trail and the Cupid to the outdoor world. Oboes love hiking. Today's episode of The Rock Fight is brought to you by Lems, and we hope that you were one of the first to experience Lems' bold new product line at the Switchback event in Nashville this past week. If you were there, you got an exclusive preview of their Fall/Winter 25 lineup, including but not limited to the Trail Thrasher, cutting-edge tactical boots, and numerous styles featuring rugged Vibram outsoles. If you weren't there, get caught up on all things Lems, including the new Switchback sandal and the amazingly versatile Trailblazer by heading to lemsshoes.com. Today's episode of The Rock Fight is brought to you by Garage Grown Gear. While Garage Grown Gear is known as an online destination for ultralight backpacking gear from small innovators, it also has an extensive selection of dehydrated and freeze-dried meals and trail snacks to suit everyone's gourmet desires. Say goodbye to bland packaged glop and instead think restaurant-quality jalapeno, cheddar biscuits, and herbed sausage gravy. Think mouth-watering garden mac and cheese with farm-fresh vegetables. Think spice-filled 5-lentil dal from your favorite Indian restaurant. Think black garlic ramen bowl from Michelin star chefs. Yes, you can have these experiences in a backpacking meal. Check out these meals and more from GGG via the link in the show notes, or just head to garagegrowngear.com. Before we get negative and talk about what we didn't like or didn't work, I to build off of the Arn conversation, which, by the way, and I know Arn's runs a few ads on the pod, but shout out to Daniel from Arn. That guy's been on like a whirlwind tour the last 2 months. He lives in New Zealand. Arn is the number one brand in New Zealand. We're eliminating Osprey from the conversation.
They're right there. Yeah, exactly.
But he's been to regional shows and to retailers and to AT days, and he's just been all over the place. And he came here, so that guy like is a true. I don't know if he is. I don't think he's the founder, but he's a steward of that brand, and he is earning his salary right now. So good on you, Daniel. But any other brands we feel like we want to shout out that we liked what we saw at the show yesterday? And one more before you guys get into it. Lloyd Vogel. We actually got to hang out with Smooth Skin Lloyd Vogel for the last couple of days, and he's actually an outdoor retailer right now. He did the trifecta: GOA, Switchback, and outdoor retailer. So he's kind of our correspondent, I feel like, at outdoor retailer right now.
Well, yeah, he's the only one that can give the true comp between all three.
You'll say it was great because everything's great to Lloyd.
He is.
You know what, Lloyd? You're fired.
Exactly. He is such a ray of sunshine. We can't have him on this pod.
No. God damn it, Lloyd.
But what if he's right?
Shit, how will we know?
It is great. I'm just saying, let's...
Sean Smith is stoked right now. He's like,
right.
Lloyd's coming. This is amazing for us.
I would be stoked too.
I would be too. All right, so any other brands we want to just mention before we move on?
This is a nerdy me thing, but you guys know I love the through hiking stuff. I loved seeing Gossamer gear here because that's a hard thing to sometimes find in shops. And it's exciting to be somewhere where you could try it on, see it in person. But I'm also, this is such a niche, nerdy thing, but I don't know if y'all are familiar with Canuck. They make the, various BPA-free water bottles, water vessels, bags, things like that. And they've been working on something they're calling a through bottle, which is a BPA-free version of a smart water bottle. I got to touch it. It was very thrilling for me. They got delayed on production, so it's not going to be out till the fall. But touching that thing, I feel like I see my future, and it is the Canuck through bottle.
I think you should say one brand from Vermont.
I don't want to mess it up, you guys.
Hooty-hoo!
Thank you. I do want to say, just as a category, is the footwear category. I feel like we've got a lot more upstarts in that space than we have had in a long time. Right, and I think because that's a tough category to get into, to even start that, and it's neat to see. And good luck to all of them.
Yeah, then we talked the guys at Notice. We talked to them.
You got Notice, Vionic, Lems is here.
Yeah, so all of them, great. It was great to see. Good to see footwear growing, and footwear is always. I mean, come on, what category is more fun than footwear? All right, let's talk about. Yeah,
I was going to say Vivo.
Oh, Vivo Barefoot.
Yeah.
They've been around a while, though.
Yeah. I know.
And of course, there was Merrill.
Right, Meryl, and this little
Was that
brand.
that giant glowing booth in the
Right,
middle?
right, and don't look
All the booth rules.
And I this new one, Skechers, I think too. Haven't heard.
They were there,
right?
yeah.
Sketch-Air. That's right.
Skechers.
That's right. I think it is. It's
Skechers.
It's French Manhattan Beach. I think a little bit, right? Yeah. Oh, and yeah, Colin.
Yeah.
You would be remiss. Bedrock. Let's not forget
Our
Bedrock.
pals at Bedrock
My
were here.
goodness,
They
right?
are, yeah. Shout out to Matt and the Bedrock crew.
Right.
So they were fitting shoes. They were putting them on. They had a nice little 10x10
There you
setup.
go.
So our friends at Bedrock. What didn't work? I guess we can start, and it's sort of a didn't. The location was, it didn't necessarily didn't work. Weird. Yeah, Shawnté just said weird. The location was weird. And I get so for the listener, it's I guess an all-inclusive resort, a little bit of combo Disneyland, a little combo Vegas hotel, a casino.
Hold on. An all-inclusive resort means that everything is included.
Oh, good
and
point.
You can
Thank
just,
you.
You can just drink wine by the pool.
Inclusive in terms of you can do a lot of things here, but you got to pay for all of it while you're going.
Oh, yeah.
And it ain't cheap. In terms of like the show hall, the show infrastructure, top notch. I mean, everything like the room we're sitting in, we mentioned all the places we needed for all the different things that the show wanted to do.
Sorry, one quick. Was there a bathroom in the exhibit hall? Did you?
Oh, that's a great question.
There was not.
Yeah, no, because I always came out here to use the restroom
it was.
yesterday.
It was. Yeah, that's my one knock.
Is that why it smelled weird in there?
Is that why all the flies are out here?
The alpacas. I don't know.
But no, but you know, the location's okay. I don't want to belabor it, but it was a bit of a running joke throughout the week.
Well, look, I think you have to separate the show facilities in terms of the size of the hall, the way it was laid out, the amenities around it, like you said, the meeting rooms for the presentations. I'm a big fan of the FedEx office right next to the door. Like I'm telling you, there's these things. The fact, like you said, we're in a room dedicated to podcasts that we can kind of record from, and so
Yeah, it's a weird. The thing is, I think you're in a place like this. It's what did you call it yesterday? Like an MC Escher drawing, like how MC Escher would render. But also felt like we were in a terrarium. It was sort of sweaty. Like, and this is again in the hotel portion of the non-inclusive, all-inclusive resort. But the thing too, we were talking about this earlier, is this idea that it's probably a great idea. Like, oh, you can stay and have the trade show going on in under the same roof. But what if nobody can afford to stay at the hotel? That's kind of an issue, right? So I think that's sort of an issue, and it's otherwise I don't know. We also didn't get into Nashville. We're in Nashville, and unless you signed up today, they're doing a hike this morning. Merrill is one of the sponsors there, and people are doing shoe demos. But unless you signed up for that hike, or unless you're one of the people who couldn't afford to stay here and was staying in another hotel, you may not have gotten into Nashville at all. I certainly didn't. Airport, Gaylord.
Yeah, exactly. And it's an interesting place, but I don't know. It feels weird. It feels like something out of the Hunger Games, and we're at the Capitol. I don't know.
We should probably move on. Poor Christina. This is the number one thing she's going to hear about is this weird hotel. And I mean, and like in her defense, like you just see the boxes being checked or the things you need to do, and this place totally does them. I think the most salient points were I didn't go to Nashville, and I was thinking, oh, cool, we get to go to Nashville. And I've not been actually outside physically since Sunday. And
feels like we've been outside when we've been in the terrarium, but it's all a lie.
So it's just, there's a couple of those things. So they'll figure that piece of it out. Owen, you want to talk about the keynote, or do you want me to jump in on that?
Hey, it was the CEO of Brooks, and great guy, good story. The problem was that it was a running CEO being interviewed by an ex-Nike running person. And in year 3, I think that would have been probably fine. But the thought process that this was an outdoor show being run by a running event company, it just felt like, oh, okay, I'm connecting the dots here. There just could have been, I think, a lot of people that would have talked to the industry a lot more, talked to what was going on, really set the tone for the show. I would have actually preferred Kent from the
Same.
OIA to be up there and just talk about the state of the industry and why this show is important and where we're going than that keynote.
It was a little odd, and I'm not trying to take a victory lap, but I will, because this is what I was concerned about when it was announced. And it's like, yeah, Jim Weber's an impressive person. Mel Strong's an incredibly impressive person. And actually, a lot of things they said, there were some really interesting points made, and the conversation was engaging. It just felt like the names that they're talking about, Brooks, running, Nike, Runner's World, I got to think there were some people in the audience who were like, I don't, that seems like another world, not my world. And I just think that this should have been the tone. It should have been a tone setter, to your point about like someone at Kent or somebody along those lines of like, hey, this is why we're here. And maybe that conversation with Mel and Jim makes sense at a different point in the show. But just to kind of say, this is the first thing we're going to do, kind of felt like it was a little bit of a missed opportunity. But I mean, it did not derail the week. It just was like,
not at all.
Yeah. The other thing, how do we feel about the timing of the show? Was it something that did it work? Did it not work? June was the big hullabaloo around the show. Was another trade show in June. Do we feel like? Do we have an opinion on that?
I do think it needs to be later. There are a lot of retailers, especially, that are coming off of a bunch of regional shows, GOA, and they're just like, hey, I need to get home and write orders and figure out what my assortment is going to be for next spring. And I think staying in this lane at this time is going to limit the number of retailers that you're going to have at the show.
We'll get to our predictions, and I do think for at least one more year, they could probably continue to do it. But at some point, as this becomes now the norm, if this does settle in as like the national show, those voices will get louder, right? It might be like another 2 years. They're like, okay, we're going to continue to do it. But I think it will become, that seems to be a consistent thing that we've heard it now at GOA and this week. The other one, this is kind of nitpicky, but I think, you don't have to program every second of every day. I actually was talking with our friend Darren Josie this morning, and he's like, I'd like to have can we have like an extrovert version, like breakfast? It's like, he's like, I want to go sit down and like hang out with people, and I got to go into this room, the only place to eat, and there's like somebody doing a presentation. And I'm like, that's a really good point. Like they're feeding us breakfast, which is amazing. It'd be nice just to have a room where like, hey, what's up? A little networking breakfast, just hanging out. No, nothing on the calendar for us to watch. Just, we're just having breakfast and talking. Like that's a nice little thing.
Or have it as an option, because have both.
Right.
Like, because I was actually up there for breakfast, and there were people sitting on the carpet out in the main hallway, right?
Just set some tables. There's a lot of room up there. They got to set some tables.
Right.
I was in the press room.
Are you press?
Yes.
Yes.
This is exciting. We've never had a press room before.
I want to explore the extroverted breakfast. I think that's fantastic. Just as a concept, that's great. We put soundproofing on the walls, right, just to keep it in one place, right? I think that's great. Icebreakers on the tables. Like, let's go.
I miss like, I feel like this came up earlier, but the Conservation Alliance breakfasts at OR, I always thought those were spectacular. Like, is that, yeah, okay. Did I steal? Is this a Duluth? Have I Duluthed you? Did I Bentonville you? Burn.
You kick them when you're down, right? It's like, I won the draft. So let me lift my leg on you while you sit in the corner and cry.
Right. Right.
No, but I have a note later and kind of what needs to happen next time. I mean, the one thing I really do miss from the old, it's funny you bring it up, actually, all kidding aside, is from the old outdoor retailer was that Conservation Alliance breakfast, because it was a tone setter, right?
It also had the social aspect built in. If you got there early enough, you were sitting and chit-chatting with everybody. You're mingling out in the hallway, and then you're grabbing seats, sitting next to people you want to talk with. I thought it was a great combo of the extrovert/introvert, which is me, and you get both aspects of it.
Yeah, it's the common causes of the industry. Like right now, looking through my Instagram, stories, it's either stuff from Switchback or it's people getting up in arms about the proposed 3 million acre sell-off of public lands. And it's like, and I know this morning's breakfast was Adam Kramer and Paul Hendricks from the Conservation Alliance. But again, I go back to that. That should be when we're, the time when we're most likely to have the largest percentage of who's coming to this in a room should be this is what's important to the industry.
I disagree a little bit, just in that those breakfasts really were just a marker of who didn't attend the DV8 or Portugal parties the night before. Right, because if you made it to that breakfast, you clearly were not there.
Or whose boss you were afraid to piss off, and you showed up like just reeking of booze.
Right.
I need more bacon.
I would say that, and maybe this is just me personally, but I don't know if it was the venue, but this feels less boozy.
Way less boozy.
Way less boozy.
Yeah. Well, it's expensive.
I think that's it. That's what I'm saying. Because you can't just wander out of the exhibit hall and go to a shitty microbrew pub and just drink.
Get bombed.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. So because of that, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's different.
This is the low liability show. It's like, kind of like it's like we're gonna put it at the freaking Gaylord. No one's gonna get drunk. It's gonna be great. Any other,
It's a dry show.
it's and not in Utah. So Tennessee does have dry counties, by the way. So that's pretty funny. Any other things we didn't like that didn't work, or kind of picks to nit?
Well,
Nits to pick, I should say.
what I would say is, and I'm not finding fault here, ultimately, the show was too small because there were actually a lot of brands at the end who got FOMO and are like, oh, shit, actually, this might be a thing. We want to show up. And, Beth
Sold
Gordon
out,
was
baby.
like, yeah, sold out. So,
They didn't have room because Meryl had all the booth space.
wow. Oh, wow.
Shawnté's
Okay.
the MVP of this episode.
And it sounds like that is going to be next time, and next time also it won't
How
be.
could they have known, right? I mean, a year ago, we're like, is this going to work? I don't know. So.
Well, and actually, but the flip side of that is one of the things that I think worked was having only it be a 2-day show, right? Because if a third day would have been crickets.
Yeah, and then the complaints really would have started.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, let's just quickly revisit our predictions, and then we'll talk about what needs to happen next time. So, Owen, you predicted on Monday's episode of The Rock Fight that you'd hear a minimum of 50 comments about an outdoor show taking place at a fake outdoor setting. I don't know if we were keeping track, but there was I heard a lot of buzz around that.
I think I get the check mark on that.
I
one.
do. I agree. Dave, I'm a little worried you may have to take an L here, buddy. Your prediction was there will be a booth. By the way, I was on board with your prediction. I thought maybe it would be more than one. There will be a booth built from reused or recycled materials.
Colin, it's not me that's taking the L. It's the planet, right? Okay, so I believe that we can absolutely do better with our recycled materials. Got to call out Howler for definitely making a show of their
They did a nice job.
repurposed pallet pieces into
Yeah.
their stuff.
Yeah.
But I do think you're right, not as much reused or recycled materials. It really was, though, the show of the tension fabric frame, right? I mean, that was absolutely
Yeah, I was gonna
the winner. Hands down, and
Right?
I'm here for it.
Is there one manufacturer of those? Are they just like swimming in gold right now?
Right, the dude said, new cars, swimming pools,
Right.
right? Look at us.
I was going to say, like in other news, the 10 by 10 tent industry is thriving.
Oh,
Like,
even
I
the
was saying-
20 by 10, like, look, they brought it all, and it's just so flexible. You can reuse it. I'm a fan personally.
Oh, yeah, no, it looks great.
right. So
No, it looks so good that when it was, I forget who it was, but there was one booth that had the tension frame that you mentioned, and then they had another one had just like pop up like banners, and they look so shabby next to each other.
the pop up, the day of the pop up is over.
It's over.
It's all
Remember
about
how cool
the
those
tension
were like
fabric.
15 years ago?
That's right. Now you can get them at Kinko's, FedEx, or whatever, right?
At the FedEx here?
Right. Maybe even right here. But no, let's
We'll
go
print you a banner
tension
for you.
fabric.
All right, let's get. Oh, and then my prediction was Switchback will work, and I think it will. I think there are lots of questions to answer. I think again, you go back to when we were talking about this a year ago, and Christina came on the show the first time, and the questions that were there about the show. I mean, it was still even a world of, do we really want a national gathering? I mean, it was kind of, you could have made the case then like OR isn't happening because people just don't want this anymore. I think all of those questions have been answered. There's clearly demand for it. The show sold out. There were retailers here, at least registered. We met a bunch. And, I think there is absolutely something to build off of here. And we'll see what they do.
Hold on, you had another prediction.
What was that?
Pickleball.
We saw one.
Oh,
Life is Good had pickleball imagery in their booth. So
imagery. I wanted to see at least a paddle in
I am
order
surprised.
for that to be a check.
No. I think, to your point, that probably is worthy saying that I'd take the L on that one, because my concern was when you went to the running event, there was like a pickleball section with like a built-in court and stuff like that. And I'm like, they're totally going to bring that here.
ISPO had a whole pickleball thing too.
Yeah.
It was pickleball versus
Scourge on society.
paddle or whatever however they pronounce that.
Paddleball or whatever.
All right, we're running long here, so let's what needs to happen next time, right? What does everybody think for this to grow and become even better? What do we want to see happen next time?
Bigger and later.
I'm going to echo what Owen said, but also I think I would be interested in seeing more programming next time. I think because I would always go to, I'm a little different from you guys because my background is in outdoor journalism. So I would go to trade shows looking for stories. So if you want to get more press to these, I always think it's nice to have a little bit more programming. Maybe when you start attracting more brands and they have bigger booth spaces, they're bringing some athletes with them, things like that. It was, OR especially was always such a great place for me to find stories, not just about products. So I'd love to see something like that.
I don't have anything serious other than just more and diverse pedicans, right? I think we could see more animal mannequins.
But surprisingly number of mannequins represented here for the small footprint.
Colin, I disagree. We had the obligatory dog and we had the obligatory sheep. Okay.
And the mosquito.
Touche.
The one thing that I would say, though, in terms of media is I think the media presence could have been bigger. I mean, it was great to have a media room, but it was almost our private media room to a degree. Yes. So, you know, and as a brand and as somebody who represents a number of emerging brands, you know, if you can't get the orders, let's at least get some. If you can't get the orders, let's at least get some press. And you know we're doing our best. There was definitely some media people here.
So Adam Ruggiero, we met another podcaster. There's definitely folks here.
Yeah, there's folks here. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I think that would be another improvement that I think from a more value prop would help.
Yeah, the only other thing, and it kind of goes to what Shawnté was talking about, lean into the location. And even what you're mentioning, I mean, the thing about Salt Lake that made it so perfect was it was kind of that perfect size city with the perfect size facility in the perfect location for outdoor stuff. And so you could go to a show that could house pretty much the whole industry, and they found creative ways to add more to it over time. Then you could walk to the Portical or whatever, or the Red Iguana to get dinner and kind of go out on the town. And then you could spend another day and go skiing or mountain biking or whatever. It kind of checked all of those social boxes. The one, if I have the only, actually, just even for any nitpicks I've thrown out here, the only disappointment I have leaving the show is that I didn't go to Nashville. And I was excited about going to Nashville. And it wasn't like I couldn't have taken an Uber there, but just it did feel a little like by the time we could have gotten to go, I'm like, I think I'm just going to go to bed. It would have been nice to be able to like roll out and even have it be a little closer. So I think leaning into the location, wherever that ends up being, which has not been announced yet, I think that'd just be a way to help it grow as well. If it doesn't, it's not like the end of the world, but that's something I would like to see happen. But that's all I got, guys. Anything else on Switchback? So is trade show season over? Are we calling it now? No more trade show talk for what? Moratorium for at least a month? Is that what we're saying?
Yes, I think so.
All right, that's the show. We want your emails. Send them to myrockfight@gmail.com. The Rock Fight's a production of Rockfight LLC. Today's episode was produced by producer David Karstad. Art direction provided by that Sarah Gensert. For Shawnté Salabert and Eoin Comerford, I'm Colin Truth. Thanks for listening. And like always, even like he was at our live event at Switchback, he's here to take us out. It's Krista Makes, and he's going to sing the Rock Fight song. We'll see you next time, Rock Fighters.